Hey fellow engineers, it's me, Mario, and today I'm ranking all the advanced tech tiles of Barrage. I actually wanted to make a video for each one of them like I did with Elevation 1, but let's be realistic, I'm not doing enough videos to do that, and I prefer to do one big video about all of them than to not discuss them or to wait till like 2030 to discuss them. So today I'm ranking them. I'm not a big fan of ranking things in board games actually. I think most of the time the context matters more than the raw power of the asset I'm looking at. But I think that at least in Barrage there is, in my mind, a clear tier list, at least for the best ones and the worst ones, because in most situations, I think they are going to work out really well or really bad. A lot of them will fall into the middle part of the rankings, like B, A, or C. But I think it's still interesting to discuss about each one of them at a time. And I think the Barrage is still going pretty well on BGA. I am enjoying it a lot. I still have like 3 concurrent games right now. And I'm still learning, which is pretty cool. I'm also gonna rank the expansion, the Lee Water Project expansion tiles today, even though I'm not as experienced with them as with the other ones. I played a lot of expansion games, but I didn't play a lot of them online, and I know that things online can change. So, my evaluation on those tiles can be a bit wrong, probably. So, let's start with an easy one. I've already discussed about it. Elevation 1 is easily the queen or the king or the best of the tiles. I made a whole video about it, so you might want to check it out. It's just good all the time. It's the only tile that you can use 4 or 5 probably times in a game, and it's going to deliver each and every time. It's the most fought after tile in the game, and I think you should get it. So that said, let's discuss a bit about the purpose of the level 1 tiles, the level 2 tiles, and the level 3 tiles. The level 1 tiles, they need to help you economically. So if they fail to do that, that can be a big problem, and that can be the reason why the tile is not that great. Level 2 tile can do a lot of different stuff, but normally they can help you in something you're missing. I'm going to explain that a bit later on when I'm going to discuss about them, but basically they are going to cover the parts of your gameplay that are not going great for some reason, which can happen a lot. And the third tier is basically scoring tiles, other than 2 of them. One of them can arguably still be considered a scoring tile. Um, it's a bit different how I evaluate each tile in each level. So if one tile is A and one tile is C, it doesn't mean that the A tile is stronger than a C tile. It just means that by the time that that tile comes into play, it's going to be way more important than the other one by the time that the other one will come into play. So keep that in mind. Like level 1 tiles, you should be able to use them at least 3 times in the game. I mean, two can work sometimes, but normally it's 2, 3 times each one of them. All right, so elevation 1 is out, and let's talk briefly about base 1, which is easily in the D tier, and it can be in the F tier or G tier if there was a tier. This tile is just not good. Why is it not good? I talked a lot in another big barrage video that I make about how bases are the most important structure in the game, pretty much. They will help you with getting elevation done, they help you unlock income, and they reserve a space on the map just for you. So why is this tile not good? Well, first off, you need to spend 5 coins for it, which means that you probably won't be able to place a base in a red spot. Now, this can work every now and then, but let's just say that it's not easy to get 2 bases in the 2 available lower spaces on the plains. Somebody else is gonna take one of them. So you will probably need to just get 2 coins to get the second base, and that can suck quite a bit. Yeah, basically this is the other reason why it's not that great. It's not easy to unlock an income thanks to it. It costs a lot and it restricts your options. If just another player will build a base in a lower spot, you're losing tempo by getting this tile, and you won't be able to get your two bases down in cheap spots. And the last reason is that actually the reward is not good. You're going to place one drop in each one of your empty dams. This is by itself is pretty bad because it means that you cannot combo with like elevated dams. It cannot help you fill elevated dams. But the other very big problem is that if you go for fast bases, you will not have the time to elevate a lot of them. So actually, the reason you're doing that is you have two reasons to do that. The first one is that you need to unlock income fast. Like going for a base rush is one of the very few scenarios in which I can see myself taking this tile. And two, by doing a base rush, since you cannot produce from those dams because you're using all of your brown workers max on bases and you cannot use them on conduits unless you're Gilles McDowell. You want those bases to annoy your opponents. So you want to place them so that they are going to stop water from flowing. But, this tile doesn't do that. It Adding one drop to each one of your dams means that you're actually not stopping water. So not only it's not a big advantage to you getting a drop in the dam, but it can also hamper your efforts of hampering your opponents. So yeah, this tile is just not that great. To quickly sum it up, it can be good with Adler, just because Adler loves to go for a base rush, and because with Adler you don't fear you're going to get block of the lower spots because you can use the lower spots in the mountains or in the hills, no problem. So with Adler it can work. It can work with Fizzler because sometimes you just need to build the base with already a drop in it and then go for a level 1 conduit and immediately produce on the first round. And this one is good for that. I still think that probably it's better if you go for a base and then place a drop, but sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes you want to get a tile because there is a round scoring that rewards you for advanced tiles. There can be cases in which you can go for this one. It can also help with Fizzler in going for lower spots, for example. So with Fizzler is not out of contention. And the last one is probably with Jill, just because again with Jill you can build also a conduit, and let's say you can build like 4 times in a round, and you can go for two bases, one conduit and one powerhouse. It's actually not true because you need more coins, but you got what I mean. You can still do something decent with Jill, even though I probably will not take it with Jill still. It's also decent if you go for a base rush, but to go for a base rush, of course, you need a faction that's good at base rushing, so it's pretty much everything other than the Netherlands and Italy. I think I don't like going for a base rush for Italy. Then we have, I'm going to leave the private buildings one as the last ones. Then we have Conduit one, which I would put in A tier. It's not as good as other A tiers in my opinion, but it can shine in a lot of games. It used to be that this tiles was considered one of the best ones just because it's not easy to get coins in the early game. But now that people catch it up with the fact that going for bases is important, going for this one most of the time means that you will not go for a base on the first round because you want to unlock two conduits with it, right? To unlock um, the income from your board. When is it good? I think there are two scenarios where it's good. One is if you yourself are going to go for an early production, like you're Fizzler or you have strong reasons to go for an early production, so that the conduit, you will not just unlock the conduit income, but you also help yourself in producing. Or when some other one is going for production and you're going to give them the conduit and get the coins. If it's a low level conduit, like a level 1 or a level 2, it's probably going to be convenient for you. It's also pretty good if there is the tile scoring round later on, because it's gonna help you get the coins to get more tiles. So in general, it's just decent at that. It can also be pretty good in some very weird and wonky scenarios in which you can get double tile on the first round. Normally this one plus this one. I've done it and it can work pretty well, but normally this one is also good, so it's not easy to fight for it. Um, it's also good, of course, with Italy because Italy has the mech under the second conduit, and with France because France has 3 coins under the second one, even though less good with France, I would say, than with Italy. Italy is really the one that can. I think it's the best one, the best positioned one to start with 2 conduits on the first round. It's also, of course, pretty good with Jill McDowell because it means that you can get a lot of coins thanks to it, and you can use those coins to purchase other tiles or to get max or whatever. So it's pretty good with Jill McDowell. Um, I would say that's pretty much it. It's a strong tile. It it's often the case that it goes in the first like 2 3 actions. Somebody's gonna purchase it. It's of course pretty good if there is like the conduit scoring later on or even early on. So overall, pretty good tile. I think it's like in A minus probably, but it's still in the A tier. There is this one. I would still put it probably in the A tier just because it when it's good, it's incredibly good. I would still consider it like with this one. I think it's consistently an A minus. I think this one can be an A or can be a B. Can be like an A plus or a B minus, depending on what your gameplay is. I see a lot of the time people grabbing this style and not producing on the first round. I think if you take this style, you really should have a plan to use the power plant. Otherwise, it's not great. It's one of the best ways to go for 4 different structures on the first round. One powerhouse, one level, one conduit, one base in the plains, and one elevation on your base. That's pretty decent with, for example, Italy, because it means that you can unlock all the incomes on the second round and also go for early productions, which that's pretty decent. Um, the face value is of course really high because it can get as high as saving you a whopping 12 engineers and 12 coins. Of course, that's the best case scenario. That's in my experience, that's not what is gonna happen. But still, it's gonna save you probably at least 12 engineers and some coins overall. Even if it saves less, that it's still decent. But again, you really need a plan that involves using those powerhouses. So either a late game scoring of powerhouses or a plan to produce early. I don't think it's good in general. I think you need a strong plan for this one. Like with Elevation 1, the plan is pretty easy and it's gonna work most of the time. With this one, the plan needs to be a bit more precise, but still you're going to get coins out of it. With this one, I think you really need a plan to use the powerhouses, otherwise you're not going to do great with it. But that's just it. Other than that, I think it can be a great tile overall. This one is easily A tier, and this one doesn't require much to you. This one is basically what this one wanted to be. Don't look at the question mark. It's deceiving. This is basically a base tile 90% of the time. It's the best style to go for a base rush because it's really hard to interrupt you. You can place one base in the lower basin with your basic tile and then go for um, another one with this one in any spot that is still 3. It's going to be good in the late game because again, question mark is good by itself. It's just a very good overall tile. It's the best one to go for a base rush with. Um, I don't have that much to say about this tile. It can also be good in the late game to place a powerhouse in an expensive spot. I think it's a bit better when, not that it needs to, when there is the end of game scoring for red spaces. But I mean, you can arguably say that this one is good too because it gives you coins. So this one is just very versatile, very strong face value, very strong on the first round most of the time. I don't think I've ever seen it not purchased on the first round ever, I think. And I think there are some cases in which I think I might pick this one over Elevation 1. It's narrow, probably, but it can happen. Like if I'm friends with Adler going first, I'm probably taking this one over this one. It depends on who's going to get this one, of course, because the second one might get too much of a gift from me. So, but I think it's the only tile that I might see myself picking over this one on the first round. It's that good when a base rush is good, and base rush is very good in a lot of different scenarios. I'm not going to list them all, but yeah, this tile is very good at base rushing. It's very good and very versatile in general. Um, Again, I think I'm gonna discuss all the private buildings one at the end of the video, just to discuss a bit more about private buildings by themselves. They might require a whole video about them, but again, I don't know if I will have the time. So let's discuss about the other tiles first. This one is easily another A tier. I did put it in the S tier in the past. I think it's halfway mid to them. I think this style is just, it flows really well if you're going for a heavy building strategy. And a lot of the time, unless you're like Fizzler or unless you have a strong pull towards some good bonus on the scoring tracks, I think going for a strong building strategy is what you're going to do. In like, if you don't look at a single game, but if you look in general, I think that the first thing that I think of in a game is how am I going to build a lot in this game, because that's what makes Barrage go really well for you. And this style just flows really well into that. Why is it that good? Why is it almost S tier? I don't think it's S tier because there are cases like you've got this one first, or basically I don't think that any tile not in level 1 cannot be S tier, because I will not pick them above everything. Like this one, I will probably pick it over any other tile in any game other than in real some corner case scenarios. So that's why it's S. But this one is for sure like A++. Let's call it A++. Why is it that good? Well, again, it's so good if you went for bases and elevations, which is what I would suggest people to do in general, because it's going to flawlessly let you transition to a production game from a heavy building start. But also it's very good because the timing is so good. You really want to take a production after you've built a powerhouse, either because you need a powerhouse to produce, it's maybe your first one, or you need it on the other hand of one of your conduits, or just because it lets you produce after you've unlocked a +1 or +2 production from your second or fourth powerhouse, or because you just unlock your power. So producing after placing down a powerhouse, it's the best timing possible. The +2 production action is the best one in the vacuum. So even though this style might not save you as many engineers as this one, the timing is so good that it doesn't matter. Like at most, this one will save you 8 engineers, or actually no. At most, it's still like 12 and 12 coins for the +2 production, the expensive one, the 3 engineers and 3 coins ones. But I would say that most of the time, you can say that it saves up between 8 and 10 engineers probably. But still, the fact that you don't have to rush for a production, so you don't fight for them, um, will let you get a lot of equity out of other actions you can take while people fight for productions. And again, the timing is just good. So basically, you have a personal production that you can activate whenever you want, provided you have the tile and the max, of course, and the engineers. And it does let you produce after placing down a powerhouse. So this is why this tile is just that good. I don't think, if basically most of the time, if I can afford it, I will purchase it, unless again I've already placed down like 2 powerhouses, or if I already have this tile. Like, of course, all the level 2 ones, or at least this one, can get worse if they come up on the 4th round, because I remind you that one of the level 2 one will come out on the 2nd round, one of them will come out on the 4th one, and all the other 3 are going to come out on the 3rd round. So it depends a lot, but most of the time I would say this one is really great. This one, unfortunately, it's a bit middling. It can be a B, but honestly, I would just place it in a C. I don't have much to say about this style. It gives you some versatility, and if you were able to get a lot of brown max because of early contracts, then it's good, but still it's not amazing. It's pretty good at letting you go for high level conduits like level 4 or level 5 conduits, but it's less good than other tiles. I know it's more versatile. I still purchase it every now and then, but it's not a tile I will fight for. It's not a tile I will prioritize. It's still way better than base one, of course, but it's not a tile that is very good in most games, I would say. In most games, you will get a lot of mechs from your income, and in your income, you can choose to get the gray ones. So this one really works that well only if you have a lot of browns and not a lot to do with them. So I think it's already a pretty narrow scenario. I'm still taking it for round bonuses or something, but again, it's not a tile I would prioritize. This one instead can be better. I'm placing it in the B tier. Uh, this tile, along with Conduit 2, which we are going to discuss about briefly in a second, they are high variance tiles. In some games, they can be totally useless. In some games, they can actually be the tile you build your game around. I've done it. I'm doing it in a game that I'm into right now with Fizzler. It can be pretty good because if you build a base in a lower spot, you can use the conduit of somebody else and you can fill your dam with this one. So it can be really good if you get cover and you need to get water into your dam. That was obvious, of course, but um, it can be good with that. It can be pretty good with one specific operative, which is Del Monte. Del Monte will let you fill up a dam till 4 drops. So this one can actually place 4 drops into your dam, which is, of course, pretty good. And getting water on demand exactly where you want can be pretty strong. So that's why it's a B, because sometimes it can be a B plus, sometimes it can be a C, pretty much. I think it deserves to be in the B tier. I'm it's not a tile that I will get most of the time, but again, if I'm planning around it or if it comes out early and I can plan around it, I think it can be worth it. It's not worth it all of the time, but again, when it's worth it, it's pretty good. Using a level 5 conduit of somebody else freely, it's pretty good. With this one, you can actually snag a national contract if you time it well. So I think the upside is high enough that even though the floor is not that high, it can be in B tier. Then there is this one in D tier. We can talk about something else. Again, this one shares a lot of problems with base 1. The problem is that it's not good for a base rush 2 because it comes out too late. It costs a lot. It doesn't help you placing dams in the red spots. And the reward is just abysmal in my opinion. Just 1 energy per dam is pretty bad. I know that people on BGG try to buff it to I think 2 energy plus 1 per dam. At that point, it might be decent. I still think that there are so many problems with the tiles, with the style. Problems reward regarding the timing. You need to have the right contract to fulfill with it. So you need to get a contract. You need to get the style. You need to place the dam in a good position. I've used it, I think, a few times, even recently, but I'm pretty much always disappointed by it. As every tile, I wouldn't count them out. Like you can still there are still some games in which you can use it and profit it, but they are so rare that I think it deserves to be in the last tier. Again, I think that if there was like an E or F tier, these two tiles will go down, and while the other ones will still be in CBAS. So yeah, that's how I think this tile are not good. And it's not only me. I mean, if you ask any other Barrage player, they would probably agree. Again, you can use it. It's so rare that it's good that you can almost forget about it. Then there is this one, and this one is actually B tier. I know a lot of players will not agree with me, But to me, it's a very strong tile, actually. It's not A tier for the simple reason that there are some games in which it's not good, and there are a lot of cases in which you are not going to take it, a bit like Elevation 2. But I think the tier of this one is higher than Elevation 2. This one can really change the way you play a game. I think people undervalue how many browns it's going to save you. It's very possible to go for a base in the mountain and then go for a level 5 conduit, which is very strong on my book. Um, I've seen players going more and more towards trying to get a level 5 conduit, and I think it's good. I think it's a recent trend that I'm seeing on the Barrage games I'm on right now, and this one makes it really that easy. It also makes it easy to go for multiple conduit. So it's good if you don't have browns because it's gonna help you with getting a good conduit. It's good if you have a lot of them because it's gonna let you get a base and a strong conduit. It's good if you go for multiple conduits because it's going to, well, give you a second conduit tile and also bigger conduits. It's also pretty good in the late game if you need to build conduits in some areas to fight for the final scoring tile, the end of game scoring tile. So I think that this tile has enough upsides that it needs to be in B tier. Sometimes again it can be B plus, a bit like Elevation 2 again. To me, this tile is just it's just very good. I'm gonna say it. I love it and I use it a lot. Again, I know that not all players agree with me on that, but I think it's a very useful tile, and you should be probably planning a bit around it in some of your games. It depends a lot on, again, your situation. There are plenty of games in which I ignore this tile, by the way, and there are plenty of games in which I only get one tile or maybe two, so you don't have to get a lot of tiles. I think I made another video about tiles in which I was explaining exactly that, but this one is good when it's good. Um, Level 3 tiles, and there is this one which is needs to be in A tier in my opinion because when it's good, it's bonkers. This one is probably the single highest variance tile in the game. If this one comes out on the fourth round and you're behind on dams, this one can really be not just a lifesaver but a game-winning tile. Um, I know that a lot of players don't like high variance, and I'm one of them actually. So it's something that I hate when I planned my rounds carefully to have enough dams and somebody snags this tile on the fourth round. But it's in the game, so you have to think about it and consider it while planning. This one is, yeah, if it's on the fourth round, and you don't have enough bases. This is like S tier because it's so powerful. You're gonna build bases without using engineers and without using max, which also means that it's going to give you a free spin on top of it because it's going to spin your wheel while not requiring you anything other than just using an action on it. It's very good if you have like elevation 1 because you can spin as a crazy and get it back sooner rather than later. It's pretty good with like 2 spins incomes from France and the Netherlands. Um it's pretty good. It's very good if you can get spins from contracts or from actions or from something else. I think it deserves to be in the A tier, even though if it comes out on the fifth round, sometimes nobody will get it. But I think that most of the time, somebody might get it. In 4-player games with a late game base scoring, it's actually not incredibly good because probably all the spots are going to get filled before the fifth round or just very early in the fifth round. So it might not be that good in those games, but I think in most games it's just this tile is just very good. So very, very, very high ceiling, a low floor, but I think an acceptable one. I think it still deserves to be in the A tier. Let's talk about this one. I would place it in the C tier, even though I played games in which this style has been really good. This one requires a lot to be very good. It can be very good. I'm just placing it here. It's better than Wild 2. I think it's probably C+, but I don't think I feel comfortable in placing it in B. Yeah, I don't think so. In some games, it does literally nothing because you're already prepared, you already have high dams, you already have a good production going, so you will not need it. But in some games where you A, don't have a really strong producing infrastructure, B, you have a lot of rounds, and C, for some reason, you need a lot of conduits, or at least more conduits. If these three are true, this tile is going to shine for you. Um, I've used it in, again, Fizzler games to help me with producing in the late game because I was not able to get a good infrastructure going and I needed the last conduit to be placed. I played it in Elevation 1 games in which I was able to go for 2 level 5 conduits on the same turn to produce 20 energy and fulfill 2 very good contracts. So it can be pretty good. I think it's in the middle here, but I think that in a lot of situations you will not, you will just ignore it. So that's why it's in the C tier. But remember that if it's useful, you should go on the hunt for it. And the good thing is that probably nobody will fight for it, so you can get it even late in the round. So this one can be good. It's again probably a bit better on the fourth round than on the fifth one, but of course it's not as big of a difference as it is for base 3. Then there is this one, which is easily A. This one, it's almost an S, I would say. This one is almost an S, and this one is almost an S, in my opinion. There are 2 very good tiles. There are not many games in which I will ignore this tile. It can happen because in a game I might not have prioritized tiles because maybe because I'm um, maybe because I'm Krylov, maybe because I was just able to get enough out of just Elevation 1. I don't know. There can be situations in which this one is not amazing, but I think that most of the time this style is just amazing. You can build anything with it. You will probably gain at least something like 12 points from it, but normally it's more. Either because you get it on the fourth round, so you can plan accordingly and use it at least 2 times, or because it's on the fifth round and you have a lot of tiles. So I think this one is easily 12 points. It's very flexible, very high floor. It can actually be completely bonkers with Krylov, actually, because if you were able to get Krylov and get some tiles, this one can easily give you something like 24 points, or even more than that. The ceiling is really high. And again, it's also flexible. It lets you build anything and gain points. So I think this one is hovering almost. It's A plus plus as this one. It's very good. It's one of my favorite ones. And I think you should always, always, always think about it in your game because if you're not getting, somebody else is, and somebody else might get enough points to pass you. So think about it all the time. I mean, if you don't have tiles, all right, but if you have one and it's the fourth round, you can probably leverage it in some way. So, very good tile. Take it most of the time. This one is another A1 in my opinion. Uh, it's probably A minus. This one, honestly, but it's probably going to give you 9 to 20 points. It's less versatile than this one. I think that the ceiling is still high enough if it's out on the fourth round, and on the fifth one you can get 12 points out of it, which is pretty good. The difference, I think, is that it doesn't happen all the time that you want all the powerhouses out. It actually happens a few quite often to me when I'm playing like USA, that I'm just placing down 2 powerhouses in total. Same if I'm playing the Netherlands. So it's not often the case that you're going for 4 powerhouses, and if you're not going for 4 powerhouses, this one loses a lot of value. So this one has a high ceiling, but a pretty low floor in my opinion, and sometimes it gets ignored. Not a lot, to be fair. Like this one gets ignored way more than this one. Points are points, so it cannot be that bad, but I think it's A tier, probably A minus. Then we have this one, and this one is probably B tier. It's probably B minus. It's points, but it's not a lot of points. It's difficult to get really a lot out of it, just because most of the time it's just better for your producing capacity to go for level 3 dems instead of level 2, and this one just rewards you for level 2. I mean, you're still going to pick it because you need points sometimes in the late game, but it's not the best plan to get points most of the times, I would say. It's still better than this one, but it's, to me, it's strictly worse than, well, not strictly, because, I mean, almost strictly worse than this one, and just worse most of the time than the other one. And while it can be better than this one, of course, I think that the ceiling of this one is so high that this one has to be in the lower tier. Again, I think that I made something like 9 points out of this style. It can happen that you can get 20, but I think it's rare enough that you shouldn't consider it. Um, I'm saying this because to get 20, you probably need a level 3 dam and um, 4 level 2 ones or something like that, and it's not a feasible plan most of the time. It can happen that this one is good, of course. Points are points. So to discuss briefly, because I think we're going for quite some time now, to discuss briefly about the personal buildings. I think that personal buildings in general are pretty disappointing. There are a few of them which are really good. Again, probably a video is going to come out about them. So a few of them are good, but most of them aren't. So you really don't want a tile that helps you build them. Also, a lot of the other early tiles or mid-game tiles are going to help you unlock income, while unfortunately personal buildings don't give you any income. Also, a lot of the personal buildings are quite expensive, so I mean, you will probably not use this tile plus your base one, which can be a bit of a problem. The first one is tricky because actually paying 5 coins to get this tile means that you will not have enough coins to use one of the best buildings that are out because they most of the time require coins. So while it can be good, and of course it's pretty good when it's going to save you like 2 engineers, so you're basically taking the personal building action for free, like with what's the name of it, Robo Factory. It's actually pretty hard to get to use Robo Factory twice on the first round because of this building, because you need more coins. So this one seems good, but most of the time I would say it's not. There are some corner cases in which it's good, but I think I'm still confident in placing it in D tier. It's over these two. I mean, probably I should just can I just add a new tier somehow? Add a row below. Yes. Uh, I don't know how to change. Yeah, over here. Oh, should become an E. I'm doing this while filming, which is probably not ideal, but probably is something like this. But I don't know. It's just a tier for this one. Yeah, I don't really care to make a tier just for this one. So let's just delete it. And just to say that it's a bit better than these two. That's it. This one actually can be very good instead, because a lot of the buildings that are good have lopsided costs, like they cost a lot of mixers but not many browns, or they cost a lot of browns but not many grays. So I think this one is legitimately a good tile. I still place it in a B tier. It would be an A tier if personal buildings were great, but since personal buildings are not great, it's in the B tier because actually it happens a lot that it gets ignored because you want to invest your mechs and your actions on the main structure on the board and not on personal buildings. So that's why it's B tier. A bit like these two tiles, Elevation 2 and Conduit 2. I think that personal building 2 can be good in some situations, and you can actually skew your game around it, trying to get actions that you want in time thanks to this one. But I think that a lot of the time it will get ignored. So if it can fit your game, cool. If not, whatever. And this one is probably one of the worst scoring tiles. I will still place it in B, but it's probably a bit like C. The, let's just talk a bit about the problem of this tile. A lot of the time, when you're building in the late game, you're building either because you want to have more structure for one round bonus, or because you want to unlock the 7 points income. Arguably, most of the time it's because both of these reasons, and not only one of these. So the other scoring tiles are good because normally they will not only give you points for the tile, but also because they are going to help you unlock the 7 point income and build the structure that you need. With this one, you are not actually unlocking the 7 points income. So yeah, you're getting the points from the private building, which is good in the late game, of course. Sometimes you just build a private building on the last round because you need the points and you don't have other ways to leverage your mechs and last engineers. But most of the time you can find better plans. So this one can be good, of course. I'm still placing it, it's probably C plus because it's more versatile than this one, I think. Um, and points are points, I mean. But I wouldn't say that it's a very good scoring tile by the end of the game. So I think this is probably it. This is probably how I rank all the different tiles. There is a clear S1, clear two last ones, the two basis one, and probably the private building one. Um, a lot of A's, as you can see. I mean, a lot of the tiles can be pretty good. One thing that I didn't say is that once you get a tile of a kind, of course, all the other tiles of that kind will become a low priority to you. Like if you already have Conduit 1, you probably will not get Conduit 2, even though it can look good, or Conduit 3. But I mean, again, a lot is contextual. A lot depends on how your game is going and what you're doing and what you need at the time you get to purchase the tile. But I think that in general, this tier list can hold and can give you a good idea of which tiles are good in general, which tiles are bad in general, and which tiles depend a lot on the context. Yeah, I would say that that's it, and see you next time for another Barrage or Great Western Trail video. And till next time, see you. Myers out. Bye bye.